thanks to all of you. Can you hear me okay? In the back? All right. For attending our third annual event. It would have been our fourth, except that last year we didn't have it for obvious reasons. The third Friday in September every year since 1989 has been set aside as National Pow Mia Recognition Day. It's a day that we remember our POWs and MIAs and renew our ongoing efforts to recover those still missing and bring them home where they belong.
Today there are 1,586 Americans still unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. For more than 50 years, the National League of POW MIA Families has been dedicated to a threefold goal: the return of all live prisoners, the fullest possible accounting for the missing, and the repatriation of recoverable remains of those who died while serving our nation. Also, some history from Carol Bates Brown, one of the founders of the POW MIA bracelet movement.
Hi, I'm Carol Bates Brown. In 1970, another college student and I decided we wanted to wear some type of bracelet to remember the suffering and the mistreatment of American prisoners of war in Southeast Asia. We thought maybe a few other college kids would want to wear them too. Well, little did we ever believe, or would have believed, that within 3 years, nearly 5 million people were wearing those bracelets. They played a major role in the international campaign to draw public attention to the mistreatment of the American prisoners in Southeast Asia.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson in the Vietnam hangar of the Palm Springs Air Museum here in Palm Springs, California, with our POW MIA bracelet display in the background. We received our first bracelet about 5.5 years ago and now have some 1,800 bracelets that have been donated to the museum. Don Barnett is with us today at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in Palm Springs, California, with a F-105 Thunder Chief in the background.
I'm the brother of Colonel Robert W. Barnett. He flew the F-105 out of Thailand in his 43rd mission. He was hit by a SAM missile. He is north of Hanoi, and so he ended up with 5.5 years of prison as a result. Around 1970, the bracelets began. Well, also, in Bob's case, we didn't know for over 2 years if he was dead or alive. I purchased my bracelet through Bob's wife, Anita. So I wore the bracelet for 5.5 years. I donated the bracelet to the Air Museum. My mother's oldest brother in World War I was listed as missing in action, and her mother then always thought he was going to come home. So our mother was going through that same stress that she may never see Bob again. I know while he was in prison, I was driving to work one day and I saw a billboard that said, "Let my brother go," and I broke into tears.
Bob Barnett is here with us this evening, POW Bob Barnett and his family. You just saw his brother Don in the video. Colonel Bob Barnett was an Air Force F-105 Thunder Chief pilot with the 44th Tactical Fighter Squadron at Korat Air Force Base in Thailand. When on a combat mission over North Vietnam, 10 October 1967, he was shot down by a SAM missile 15 miles northeast of Haiphong and taken prisoner. Bob, would you, you and your family please rise. Barnett family, thank you. Thank you guys for being here.
And they fired SAMs at us. And just at about the time I was rolling in, the one went off probably 20 feet behind my airplane and blew into the airplane, caught it on fire. The oil light came on, engine froze, I ejected, and as I went out, my raft that I was sitting on went out and inflated before the parachute.
So when I looked up, the raft was there, the parachute wrapped around the risers, and I had a ball, and I was going down like that. And I said, "Whoa, me." So it was my day. I fell through a tree, ricocheted off the branches, fell in a bush, and survived the crash. And I was about 10 miles from the coast. Thought I'd be picked up, but fickle finger of fate, always there. A Navy pilot got shot down same time I did. Navy helicopter went and picked up the Navy pilot and said, "We'll see you tomorrow." So I stayed out overnight, and by that time the Vietnamese knew where I was, or knew I was down. So they started looking for me the next day, and I was wandering around the jungle. They did send a helicopter in to try to pick me up. I'd warned them. I thought I'd already going to be captured, but they sent it anyway. And it came over the top of me. It was hovering, and bunch of firing, bullets going through the trees, hit the helicopter, and mayday, 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 and the helicopter went putting off. So anyway, I ran around for another couple of days, and they caught me with a dog under a bush, and then the fun began. I was kept out there overnight, and interrogated, put in the ropes, beaten, tried to use me as a decoy. I was able to send a false message that stopped the rescue, and they took me into Hanoi. I went into the Hanoi Hilton, into the Nabi room, and I spent 6 days in there being interrogated. Then, if you want to hear the next 1,989 days, it's going to take a while, but it lasts a long time, and a lot of things happen. And
I think I read or saw where you said that you found God in captivity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
well, they say there's no atheists in the foxhole. Well, when they're really beating on you, I don't know if I really found God. I just hadn't been talking to him a lot, but I sure found a way to start talking to him then. And for some reason, I just felt there was some connection. I don't know if I was hallucinating or not, but I even heard voices. I think I was. But after that, for some reason, I don't think I was ever really afraid. I just was there with a lot of adrenaline, and whatever's going to happen, happened. But it got me through that part, and somehow I never really got tortured after that. I like to say that's the reason why.
So,
Okay.
thanks. Colonel Brian Zeke was an Air Force F-4 Phantom II pilot. He was in the 469th Tactical Fighter Squadron, also at Karat. When on a combat mission over North Vietnam, 5 July 1972, he was shot down by a MiG air-to-air missile and taken prisoner.
I was a prisoner for 9 months, and I'm still a new guy to all these guys. I wasn't a pilot. I was a navigator, trained as a weapons systems officer to operate the stuff in the back seat. And I found out the hard way that, if somebody comes up deep from behind you and nobody sees you, you don't see them, the next thing you know, they get a shot off, heat-seeking missile right up the tailpipe. I was in a great airplane one moment, and I was in a smoking rock the next, tumbling over, flood of debris that accumulates in the bottom of those cockpits that nobody knows until big-time negative G starts, and it all starts flying up all around you. I managed to get out of the airplane. I was burnt up some. the flight suits were fire resistant, not fireproof. And I was proof of that. But, you know, when I got out, I was just hanging down there and looking down at little villages and stuff. And next thing you know, they started shooting at me. And I wanted to wake up from this bad dream, but it just got worse. And I landed in a rice paddy, and there was all this militia around me with guns and whatnot. And, you know, for you, the war is over, you know, kind of thing. So, and then they took me back to Hanoi. I was pretty burnt and broken up some. And so they kind of laid off me initially, but that was to come later. One of the things I want to say is, those of you who are familiar with baseball, this is going to have this is going to transition. I mean, those who are familiar with baseball, you know, there's a guy that the pitcher wins 300 wins, goes to the Hall of Fame. He's called a baseball player. Another guy, few years, gets about 30 wins. He's also called a Major League Baseball player. And Bob and I are both called ex-POWs, but he's the Hall of Famer.
Well, all of you guys are in our Hall of Fame, that's for sure. That is for sure. I have another POW on board here tonight, and this is our featured speaker. I'm going to introduce him pretty soon, but I'm going to have him talk a little bit about Paul Granger.
Paul, I'm sorry to embarrass you. I know you tried to sneak in under with your electronic countermeasures on, tried to slip under the radar, but unfortunately you popped up as you were in the drink line. I knew you were here, so now I've got to talk about you. Paul Granger was a B-52 pilot. He was shot down during Linebacker 2 on 20 December 1972. Actually, if I'm correct, his B-52 was attacked by a MiG first, and then the SAM got him. He stayed on and flew into the target area, delivered his ordnance before he ejected the aircraft. He was only one of 3 individuals to get out of the aircraft, and released in 1973. So Paul, we appreciate you coming tonight. It's an honor, and he's a dear personal friend of mine, so I'm thankful he made it all the way up here from San Diego. Thank you, Paul.
Captain Steve Shepard, U.S. Navy retired, is our guest speaker tonight. A career intelligence officer, he retired in July of 2021 after a 31-year career. Shep served in the office of the Secretary of Defense for Prisoner of War Missing in Action Affairs. His duties focused on accounting for military missing from the Vietnam War. He served as mission coordinator for 3 presidential delegations to Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia between 1994 and 1996. Shep is a graduate of New Mexico Military Institute, the University of Virginia, and the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College. A military historian, he is currently working on writing the history of naval intelligence in World War II for an upcoming publication. He is also an active volunteer with San Diego Honor Flight, where he has participated in 14 honor flights since 2012. He's married to his best friend Sandra and the father of 2 very active teenage boys. And I'm proud to call him a newfound friend.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight, whether you're former prisoners of war, families of our missing, or family members of those who gave their lives on the field of battle. You have an understanding of the cost of freedom much more than most. It is fitting and right that we take our time to pause and honor and think about them on this day. I want to make a special mention to MIA families tonight. In the military, we go on deployment. For some in the audience tonight, they are still on deployment. We still don't know where they are. We still don't have them home. So we must continue to work to find the answers, to bring them home so that their deployment can end. So we will be with you until that time happens. We must never, ever forget that. Now this evening I spent some time talking about my experiences working in the Defense POW/MIA office between 1993 and 96. This was a very tumultuous time. It was 20 years after the war, where we reestablished our relations with Vietnam. We lifted trade embargo, and of course there was lots of consequential actions upon our efforts to find our missing Americans. So I'll be talking about that tonight. If a pilot is shot down in Vietnam, we'd use all the sources we could to find him. Imagery intelligence, IMIT. That's also where we use reconnaissance photos from aircraft or other means where we look at a crash site to determine where the plane was crashed, to confirm its location, and also to determine survivability of the incident based on what we see in the imagery. So before 1975 and after 1975, we had over 2,000 reports that came from Vietnamese refugees that correlated to individuals who were shot down either during the war or they claimed they saw Americans after the war. Of those reports, we could make those an electronic database and look at a geographic area and see where that report was and who it potentially correlated to. I could take a database and look at an area 25 miles and understand every American aircraft lost in that area, every refugee report, and any associated intelligence. You know, we had no evidence that any American was held after 1973, but you can't rule it out until they're all accounted for. You have to continue to be looking and monitoring that. Now, what we did in our research, when we looked through all the case files, there are 196 individuals who we classified as last known alive. So what do I mean by that? These were people who survived or may have survived their lost incident, were either seen alive on the ground or in captivity or in immediate proximity to being captured. Again, this comes back to all sorts of intelligence. We have a radio report this person was captured. We have a picture of a person that's been captured but doesn't come home in 1973. Those kind of things. Or we know that this person landed in the middle of a North Vietnamese Army garrison, stuff like that. And I'll talk about one of those cases later. But of those cases, of the 196, the fate's been confirmed for 177 of them as of this year. There's still 19 unresolved, and that continues to be the focus of government efforts. Major Robert Zukowski, he was lost on February of 1969. So I'm going to show you some video of the crash site excavation of where he went down. He was striking targets in Laos on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It was a fuel complex when he was dropping ordnance, and all of a sudden his plane went inverted and he crashed. So we can see that they find not only aircraft parts, but what is known as crew support items like comms cables, parts of his survival gear, etc. The most poignant thing that I remember seeing there was his locker key. I thought about the fact that he had held that locker key, put in his flight suit before he went off to fly, and there's where it was. We also found his St. Christopher's medal, and we also found a watch that he had 4 watches made, one for himself, his father, his 2 brothers. And so we found that watch among it as well. So it's very thing. So
this came on probably the best time right here. This unit we just finished. It's the first trench we finished. And we're starting from each end. We have a set of screens down here and a set of screens down there. What we're doing is passing the matrix, or to put it simply, the soil that comes out of the unit that is culturally, it's actually been touched by some sort of human activity. That goes through the screens. And that's to look for any remains, any personal effects, any sort of evidence that can help us find a key to this case. It's a very large area, and we have to cover this area in a certain method, and the trenching system seems to be the best way because it kind of runs a sort of a physical or a manual radar through the soil. We can get a good idea of what the soil looks like at the sides, and also you get an idea of a large amount of area. Go ahead and take that out. If nothing is found through this first technique, we cross-trench, which is we come back with a series of 1-meter trenches that run along the other edge of the thing. What you're left with is basically 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter cubes of earth. And we're working on probability here. So the odds are that someone was buried upright within a 50 centimeter cube of earth are very slight.
This is what we found the day before yesterday. Another part of a life preserver. This is part of a glove. These are parts of the survival vest. and part of the communication cord that goes on his oxygen mask. Communication cord. It wraps around his oxygen mask. And this is part of the hose for the oxygen mask also.
He mentioned that blue tarp was F-105 aircraft, and that's what they were taking back to Hawaii. There's a B-52 site where they had 8 crates. So that kind of gives you an understanding of just the amount of work that goes into this, with people going back and looking at what was in the aircraft and the crew survivability. So the final thing, and Zukowski's remains were identified. He was buried back in his hometown back in Illinois. Now, you remember I mentioned the St. Christopher medal that they found? His mother had given that to him, and by the time his remains were found, she was suffering with dementia. But when they showed her the St. Christopher's medal, she immediately burst into tears and knew it belonged to her son. A connection from across the years. So I just think, that's part of the work that we do is bringing healing and closure at all levels.
Thank you, Chapter Shepherd. Thank you so much. Okay, if you have a seat, we're going to wrap it up in a little bit. But I want to talk about this young man. I'm sure a lot of you that here locally are aware of him. Corporal Hunter Lopez from Indio, California, and a graduate of La Quinta High School, was an infantryman with 3rd Squad, 1st Platoon Golf Company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Division in Afghanistan, when he was mortally wounded during a suicide bombing attack at the Kabul airport, 26 August 2021. Corporal Lopez's father is a Riverside County Sheriff's captain, and his mother a deputy sheriff. Corporal Lopez was planning to follow in his parents' footsteps and join the Sheriff's Department when he departed the Marine Corps. His body was returned home yesterday, and tomorrow a memorial service will be held at the Palm Springs Convention Center at 11 a.m., followed by burial at the Riverside National Cemetery. I know we all grieve for any fallen hero, but when it is one of our own, it is especially painful. And now, I'm going to have my friend J.K., who has a background in classical music and the theater. He will perform in just a moment the Navy hymn, Eternal Father, So Strong to Save. I will be showing photos of all the MIAs who are MI and KIAs, who are MIA and KIA family members who are here tonight, as well as those who wore a bracelet back in the day and became really close to this person. You'll probably recognize a lot of these guys.
Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm doth bind the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. O Savior, whose almighty word the winds and waves submissive heard, who walkest on the foaming deep and calm, amid its rage did sleep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. O sacred spirits, who struck upon the chaos dark and rude, who has its anger, torment ceased, and gavest light and life its peace. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those who in peril on the sea. Trinity of love and power, our brethren's shield in danger's hour. From rock and tempest, fire and foe, protect them wheresoever they go, and ever let them raise to thee glad hymns of praise of land and sea.
Thank you, JK. Thank you so much.